Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic week. Well, LNG or liquefied natural gas is the next wave, everyone says, of cruise ships. It's much cleaner, it's cheaper, and it will really help the environment. So why aren't cruise ships all LNG? Well, there are really some good reasons. So if you're anything into the cruise industry at any time and you're looking at any stories, you've heard of LNG cruise ships. And for fact, Carnival Cruise Line with their Ada brand just launched the very first LNG cruise ship this year. LNG is a liquefied natural gas and it's much cleaner than the sulfur fuels that cruise ships have to use right now. Um, in fact, it's so much cleaner than regular fuels, dirty fuel as they like to call it in the cruise line, which is the cheapest fuel you can buy. This fuel is actually sulfur free. So instead of highly dosed in sulfur, it's virtually zero sulfur emissions. And the toxic gases and the particles that come out of the cruise ship, it reduces them over 99%, which means the cruise lines would no longer need to have scrubbers in their stacks to remove the particles, and it's much cheaper to maintain these things. The trouble is that first off, it's great that way. For the environment, it's much better. There is no doubt about it. And even for the cruise ships, it can be a real economic benefit. In fact, cars that have been tested with the LNG system found they ran longer, the engines needed less repair, and they traveled farther on the same amount of fuel. So better mileage and less emissions to the environment. Sounds like a win-win situation, right? In fact, with all the new environmental things that some areas are coming out, Norway has just expanded the area where you are no longer allowed to burn dirty fuel and they have to burn the expensive, cleaner fuel. And the same thing in Alaska. So there are more and more and more environmentally friendly areas are widening and widening and widening, making it harder for cruise ships to go. And if you don't have scrubbers in your stacks, basically you're not even allowed to go anywhere near some of these destinations. So cruise lines are really taking this to heart. First of all, if they can save money, they're going to be very happy about it. And if they can get rid of that nomer of, you are, worse than 200 million cars and blah, 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 and you're horrible to the environment, you're destroying our cities. Well, if they're not releasing sulfur and 99% of the particles are now reduced even without scrubbers, that goes away. All that bad press goes away. So why are cruise lines not jumping on this bandwagon? There's a couple reasons. First of all, if you were going to retrofit current cruise ships and put in the new system, the trouble is the tanks to hold the liquefied gas need to be about double the size of the current gas tanks, whatever the cruise ship is using, because of the way it's burned and shrunk and then refueled. All this it needs to be about double. And so they're looking at new designs of tanks where it's actually in the kind of like the lining of the ship more than tanks in the ship, and so that way it doesn't take up space, because as you all know, if you take up space, chances are it's going to be cabins, cabin rooms that are going to disappear, and every cabin room that disappears is a possibility of money that the cruise makes, and so they need to keep as many cabins on board as they can. So taking away 40 cabins to put in the new system might not seem like a great idea to the cruise lines if they're going to lose money on the ship to do it. That being said, they can design them into the new ships, and that's what they tend to do. In fact, almost 50% of all cruise ships currently being built are being built with the LNG system in there. Everybody seems to be jumping on the bandwagon. Ada, Costa, MSC, Disney, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Princess, P&O, just to name a few. Everybody has LNG cruise ships on order starting from this year. So as we go forward, more and more of these ships are going to come into fruition. There are some other troubles though, and the main reason this is taking so long to do the switchover is there's not enough refueling stations. Not enough ports are equipped to refuel a ship running the LNG system. So as far as a cruise line is concerned, if you can't refuel, what good is having the cruise ship being environmentally friendly if you can't go anywhere? And you can completely understand that. The ports are now taking all this into consideration, and they are building facilities to start accommodating, but they don't spring up overnight, and more places have to do it. A lot of ports are undergoing multi-billion dollar renovations, and in this renovation they are adding the LNG refueling system so they'll be able to accommodate. It's not an overnight thing. The good news is there are plans in the works for all of this, and the overall thing that you can get from LNG is, number one, it's much cleaner for the environment. Less particles, 99% less particles is a ton. Zero sulfur emissions is amazing. And so you won't get all that pollution in any port. You won't smell it. The sulfur, none of that's going to happen. It's going to be better on the engines. The engines run cleaner, which means they need less maintenance. So in the long run, it'll end up being cheaper for the cruise lines. And that's why they're getting on board, and that's why they're pressuring ports to install the fuel system so they can get this up and running as fast as possible. In fact, by 2026, there should be over 28 cruise ships out there with the LNG system. And that can only be good news, both for the cruise lines and the environment. I hope you liked this news update. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world, hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.